Good evening and welcome to Tinkering with Edkelar. As promised, this episode is the beginning of something rather special. Back when I was first looking for a VTVM, I came across a Precision Instruments Model 98 that was affordable, although in a bit of a poor condition. I am quite fond of their designs, and while there might be better ones out there, I think they are at least reasonable. But in my experience so far, they seem to age a bit poorly. I since got myself a 612 tube tester and a E200C signal generator. Now the latter one had a setup with a matching scope in its manual, so I went on the hunt and indeed found one. Behold, the Precision Instruments ES500. It is what I would call a first generation scope. These are intended to visualize a waveform so you can see if there's a distortion or some chopping going on. They are not calibrated, so reading voltages or times off the screen is not a thing at all. There is a graticule provided for it, which is just a transparent overlay and useful for comparison, for example to get the duty cycle for asymmetric waveforms or other relative measurements. The frequency range is listed as 10 Hz to 1 MHz, but with the now established -3 dB as the cutoff point, it would be more around 400 kHz. So it should serve well when doing AM tube radio and audio range work. It was evident in the auction that this one also needed some TLC, and a first impression confirmed that. The case was quite corroded near the bottom, which to me indicates water damage. Also, the binding posts took a hit sometime and have bent the front panel. And then there's 2 screws missing from them as well. The carry handle also has seen better days. Now to open it up and take a peek at the insides. On the back there's a cover that allows direct access to the horizontal and vertical deflection voltages, so you could drive the tube from an external source or pick up the signal to drive an external tube. Interesting. There is also a pair of banana sockets for headphones. I need to look into that. And here goes. 11 of 12 screws present and accounted for. Somebody had it opened before, I'm sure. Those screws will get new replacements anyhow. As is usual with tube equipment, the case is just draped over the chassis. So, carefully pulling that out without snagging any loose wire. Oh my god, it's even worse on the inside. Brace yourself. This is not a nice view at all. Now, I'm not a certain fruity company, so I don't mind water damage overall. But the extent of it was a bit extreme. I assume that white stuff all over the wiring is some sort of mold. The inside of the case isn't any nicer. Really heavy rust on that part. Disassembly starts with the bezel to prevent bending it. The chassis is heavy and needs to be turned around quite often. The CRT clamp has a layer of felt which I remove right away. Nasty! Up next, liberating the front panel. That needs some straightening and a thorough cleaning. I just unscrew all the pots and switches and leave them dangling in the wire loom for now. Now that I can see more of the device, it is about as bad as it looks. Note that at this time I already went over the loom with a vacuum cleaner twice. Let's inspect what we have. A quick peek into the CRT neck holder. While modern CRT TVs usually hold onto the tube by the front only, scope tubes are typically held by the back as well. The input sensitivity switch, that is the attenuator section, has its own shielding, and that blocks the view on the actual input amplifier. And what a view it is, straight out of a Stephen King novel. For starters, I try to desolder the capacitors, which don't even pass visual inspection. But the twisted leads are so much hassle that I fall back to the side cutters very quickly. Yep, definitely not worth testing. Anybody want to try to reform that one? Now, getting rid of all the other caps. And pop! Wow, these are in really bad shape. I really hope that nothing took permanent damage when the seller turned it on for the eBay pictures. Those two sardine cans are also capacitors. Oil-filled high-voltage ones. Must be for the CRT driver. Finding replacement for those should also be interesting. And now, the transformer. Brrr, there's that fluffy stuff in all the paper layers again. And finally, the big can electrolytics. These were used as solder points for quite a few components. I got lucky on eBay a second time. Somebody was selling an original owner's manual of the thing. Yay! It was in good condition and came with the schematics. 2 versions actually. And since mine has the serial number close to the second revision, I'd date it as mid to late summer of 1949. As was evident by the sheer number of connection points, the transformer is a beast. We have 5 heater windings alone. Add a center-tapped main voltage and extended high voltage winding and it's certainly not easily replaced. Since I want to use the scope, I'm sure you can guess what's next. And yes, indeed, rewinding the transformer. Getting the core out was quite a chore and a half. Some rust checking and a tight pack to begin with made the sheets quite stuck. I made sure to write down the exact directions and connections of all the windings. And then, winding time. While the transformer was quite a bit of work, the choke for the main supply rail was much easier. In addition to rewinding, the mounting bracket and core just needed a bit of cleanup. Up next, the input attenuator circuit. I really would like to clean that switch good and proper, and also the wires are filthy. So let's rebuild that part entirely. Why not? Potentiometer cleanup time! Since these types are hard to come by these days, I was a bit hesitant at first. But literally no two pots felt the same. They were all different levels of gunked up. One was so bad even that it took quite some IPA and 2 pairs of pliers to get it moving again. And this concludes part 1 of the project. As you might be able to tell by certain changes in the background scenery and clothing, it was a long one. I started in April 2022 and just finished in August 2023. It took quite a bit of space on, under and around my workbench. See you next time! Has its own shielding and that blocked the view to the actual input amplifier.